for us with a suspect that is charged in the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson, fighting extradition back here to New York. Luigi Mangione appeared in a Pennsylvania courtroom yesterday. You can see him shouting angrily as he entered the building. Law enforcement now focusing on alleged writings by Mangione for clues about a potential motive. We're going to speak to his lawyer in a moment, but first let's go to senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky outside the prison there in Pennsylvania with the latest for us. Good morning to you, Aaron.
Good morning, Robin. The 26-year-old suspect is now being held at this prison without bail after fighting extradition and shouting those fighting words that officials now fear could be considered a call to action. An outburst from Luigi Mangione, shackled and handcuffed as he was dragged into court.
As a completely out of touch, as an insult to the intelligence of the American people,
Sheriff's deputies wrestling him inside. He refused to waive extradition to New York, where he's charged with murdering UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
When I entered my appearance, and for the record, he's pleading not guilty to this. And I've seen zero evidence at this point.
The judge denied bail. Mangione kept quiet as he left court, head down. He's a threat to no one, but this morning the NYPD is alarmed by these posters outside the New York Stock Exchange and social media posts suggesting Mangione is a martyr.
We do a lot of work in the online space. As part of that, we'll surge resources, protective resources around the city wherever we need to when we're anticipating and dealing with a big uptick in threats.
In a confidential assessment obtained by ABC News, the NYPD says Mangione considered Thompson's murder a symbolic takedown of UnitedHealthcare over perceived corruption, adding the suspect likely views himself as a hero of sorts who has finally decided to act upon such injustices. A copy of the suspect's alleged writings said UnitedHealthcare was among corporations that have simply gotten too powerful, and these parasites simply had it coming. Mangione also referenced a spiral notebook that sources tell ABC News contained writings about the Unabomber, but how Mangione thought explosives could kill innocent people. The writings were found, police say, when Mangione was arrested at this McDonald's, seen eating a hash brown moments before.
My one friend made the comment, he thought it was, he goes, don't that look like the shooter from New York?
An employee called police.
The worker that took his order, she said his eyes and his eyebrows. She just thought it was him.
Police say the gun Mangione had looks very similar to the gun used in the murder, capable of firing 9mm rounds and made at least in part with a 3D printer. Earlier, the suspect tried checking into this Altoona motel, but no room was available.
There was somebody that checked in, and the officer goes, "Did he have a mask on? Did he ever take a mask off?" I was like, comes back, no, he never did take the mask off. He says, "I'll be down there in 5 minutes to talk to you." We pulled it up on surveillance and sure stuff. They go, "Yeah, that's him."
Mangione had been out of touch with his family for months. In November, sources tell ABC News his mother filed a missing persons report in San Francisco. The sources say investigators in Pennsylvania have started interviewing his relatives, perhaps asking about internet posts in which Mangione wrote about back pain, brain fog, and sciatica. Mangione at one point writing, "It's absolutely brutal to have such a life-halting issue." His former roommate in Hawaii said Mangione struggled with a back injury.
Unfortunately, he did let me know that the severity of his back issue was such that it was very difficult to have physical relationships with women, that it made things painful.
Mangione's case has become a cause, with admirers posting videos like this on Instagram. His X page gaining 300,000 new followers.
The person that I knew 8 years ago and the person that he allegedly has become today could not be more different.
A former classmate left stunned.
I've still been in a little state of disbelief that this kid that I knew from high school for 8 years ago is now the most high-profile killer, allegedly, in the country. I would never have had anything bad to say about him.
Since some of Mangione's internet posts reference dealing with a debilitating back injury, one thing police are investigating now, George, is whether UnitedHealthcare or some other insurance company may have denied a claim. George?
Okay, Aaron, thanks very much. Let's bring in Luigi Mangione's defense attorney, Thomas Dickey. Mr. Dickey, thank you for joining us this morning. Are you standing by that statement that you've seen zero evidence tying Mangione to the murder?
That's correct. We had a brief hearing yesterday. There was one document, an arrest warrant from the state of New York, which merely referenced a statute. We've seen no evidence That's one of the many reasons why we're challenging the extradition at this point, so we can see some evidence and get a little more detailed information about the charges against Luigi.
What about the gun? What about the writings?
Well, as I indicated yesterday, I have not been made aware of any evidence that links the gun that was found on his person to the crime. These are things that we're looking to see. And yesterday was fast the day. Today's another day. We're looking forward to beginning our inquiry as to what evidence may or may not be out there.
Gun looks exactly the same as the one that was used.
Well, I mean, a lot of guns look the same. I mean, if you brought a gun in and say, well, it looks like that, I don't even know if that evidence would be admissible. And if so, I would argue that it wouldn't be given much weight. That's why they do ballistic tests, ballistics examination, a test of all that to try to match that. Trust me, they're going to try to match that firearm to the incident by more than just, well, it looks like that.
What about the writings? These parasites had it coming, talking about the healthcare industry, corruption, and greed. That is all evidence, isn't it?
Well, I mean, certainly it could be. I haven't seen any of that yet. You know, one of the rules of evidence is there's a rule of completeness, so you have to take any writing or any document in its entirety, because some things can be taken out of context. So again, these are exactly the things that I'm looking to get my hands on. I'm hoping that we can get that maybe even as early as today. Again, I really can't comment on something that I haven't seen in its totality.
How about the fake ID, same one used at the hostel?
Well, again, whether or not that's matched to that, these are things I need to find out. I need to examine things. You know, people put out certain things and parts of the different things, but I think any lawyer involved in this situation would want to see it all.
Did Mangione tell you he didn't do it?
I would never reveal any conversation between my client. That would not be proper. There's an attorney-client privilege, and I cannot and would not ever comment on that.
Mr. Dickey, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Michael?
All right, thank you, George.